that have asked for that, from radio, from TV, and from other, and felt like we go through some of these topics and knock out maybe a handful of them, and then let you guys ask some questions. So, you know, from the local level, been a lot of national interest as well, as you can imagine. But today I just thought we just kind of walk through this little by little. So I'll start with, you know, yesterday with Josh and Lori and their announcement of them as interims. And while I only got about 7 months to work with Lori in the provost role, the thing that stuck out to me in our weekly president's cabinets meeting is she is a decisive leader, and I think that's imperative right now, is to have that in that position. Whether it be in the provost or whether she be in the president's role, certainly the interim at this point, it's going to be important for the university to have somebody that's in a decisive leadership role and to move things forward. And what I've seen so far is that she's going to be very capable to do that. Josh, as you guys know, is near and dear to my heart. You know, brought him back from Villanova, has a lot of terrific traits, loves this place, likes what's going on, a lot of experience in a variety of areas, and will gain more experience in other areas to cover the void. I think has the respect of the staff and the leadership team, and as you guys know, work closely with some sports as a sport administrator. So I've tried to get him in a position to be ready, just like Amy Calabrese as our SWA, is to get them in a position to be ADs one day. And that would have been, you know, and is today probably one of the proud points of when you're in my prior role as a CEO, is getting other people ready to be CEOs. And I always said that. I know coaches talk about what their coaching tree looks like, and my coaching tree for my last real CEO job is 4 CEOs. So in that same vein, I think about them the same way, and that's why we created kind of our junior sport administrator program. But with that being said, I think Josh has got a terrific team around him, very talented, deep, and experienced, that we put together, and it'll make it for an easier transition for him. I don't think there's going to be decisions he has to make. When you go from a deputy to an AD, you got to have conviction in your decisions, so not ones you can waffle on and take to the AD's office. You're it. So you got to, you know, have that conviction and understanding what you're doing, and certainly I think you'll see more of his personality you know, come out as he's in this role for as long as he's in it, or whether he becomes the permanent. So that's certainly, but I'm excited for him, and I've been in touch, as you can imagine, multiple days, every day for whatever the last 10, 12 days that I've been gone. The time goes by quickly. One of the things he referenced yesterday with the football program and Coach Satterfield, you know, he mentioned as strongly as I would. Coach Satterfield is the football coach. We're going to support him in what he's getting done. I get it. You know, Jeff Brom, other great coaches out there in the country would love to have come in here to this program. I think if you asked them all where we are in facilities, I think they'd tell you we're at the top of the game. Even Scott in our meeting mentioned that now that we solved kind of the training table issue and using the Pepsi Club, it's fantastic. We've done all the things to try to give him the resources to be successful, but he's carried the water on this program for 3 years, 3 difficult years from where it was left in his lap. We all know about the lack of recruiting that was going on before he got here. You don't solve that overnight, but you do solve it what he's doing, trying to build a program and develop players, similar to what he did at App State. There's a reason why they've gone to 3 straight conference championships after he left with his players. And some of his staff, Frank Ponce calling the plays, Dale Jones down there. So that continuity is important, and that's why we brought him here, and think that's why he still has the great opportunity in front of him to take this program in to compete for the ACC. So the talent that he recruited last year, the talent that he's bringing in this year, it's a smaller class, but per man is going to be really exciting, and you can see what's happening in the transfer portal. So we talked a lot about recruiting. We talked a lot about recruiting staff and how to bolster that and how things have changed with the portal. We talked about the staff. We knew we had a couple positions we were going to have to fill, and Stu Holtz left since, so that was one that was on the fence. It's now final, and Scott had really good thoughts about how he wanted to shape the staff, including the replacement of Mike Siriano on there. But the players play hard for him. The players love him. The staff responds to him. It's things that fans don't see behind the scenes that we do. They play hard through the games, and it's difficult to end the season losing your rival in the way we did. Hard to explain, frankly. But with that being said, I think he knows people want to call them contract years. as Scott would put it, he wants to move in the house he's building right now and be there a long time. He knows he's got to win this year. That's the Mr. Obvious point, and I think that he's up for the task, and I think he's got a staff and bringing in more talent to do that. So, time will tell, but we need to give him that support. It's been a tough 3 years to rebuild this program to where it needs to be from where we were as the worst rated defense in the country. And I think what he did with what he had and had Becton and others that initial year helped him, but it didn't solve the next couple years. And with what he's doing and the talent, what he's doing in development, redshirting some really big guys on the defensive line, bode well. So I feel like we're in a good spot. He did a good job getting to know donors over the last year. He'll do a better job getting to know fans over the coming year. And I think that's something that's also part of how do you run this program and making sure that he's clear on it. They don't get to see some of his personality as well that we get to see behind the scenes. He stays pretty stoic and he's pretty reserved, but he's also about as competitive as you can be if you're playing golf or any kind of yard game. So I wish him the best. On basketball, Chris is having a heck of a time right now. Again, sometimes all that occurred in the past moves forward with those who come next, and he gets tagged with some of the things that occurred before, meaning everybody has a view of where we were. I have a different view of where we were when I stepped in, and certainly when he stepped in about 6 months later. And it's a challenge. I've been in those recruiting meetings with families and what we're dealing with, and it's unfortunate what's going on with the NCAA that we're still having to sit here and wait to find a hearing date and drag this thing out. It just puts more pressure on him, more pressure on the program, and it's tough for fans when you're not winning at the level that we've won at historically. But I still believe that National Coach of the Year, that Big East Coach of the Year, hasn't forgotten the game, and will do his best as he has to get the talent in here and compete, get us back into the postseason, and has the ability to be our coach here for a long time to come. On the other sports, the reason we're talking today and not 10 or 12 days before is, I didn't want to be a distraction, anything going on. Certainly didn't want to get in the way of anything happening at the university. I knew we had the football banquet on Saturday. We had the volleyball coming up. They had a couple matches. Basketball Friday night. Didn't want to be there in the way in the stands and be a distraction to the fans, to you guys, certainly to the team. And I think they know that. The coaches knew that. My staff knew that, and felt like once it was done, where Lori and Josh were named interims, we would get together and talk about a variety of things. But our athletic performance as a department is likely going to be the highest ranking we've ever had in the Learfield Cup standings this year. Certainly with Justine and field hockey being ranked #1 during the year, Danny getting volleyball to where it is undefeated, ranked #1 and heading to the Final Four. We all know Jeff Walls is going to push hard to move back up and potentially get that #1 ranking during the season. From what we've seen is impressive. Dan McDonald, where he is preseason, and obviously make a run and hopefully stay healthy this year. There's a lot of positives. Men's soccer winning the Atlantic Division for the first time. So I know there's a great deal of focus on losing to Kentucky in football and what's happening in basketball today. But it appears that we're in the best shape we've been in that setting. Financially, I can speak to that. We took on pretty significant liabilities here related to those that aren't here anymore, related to the John Snotter buyout. You're getting in the range of $40 million that you have to get over it, and I feel like we've gotten over it. We're done paying off Bobby's payments. We got a couple payments left with John Snotter. The other liabilities related to Tom and any expenses related to Rick and all that are gone. And the pre-COVID year, we made $4.3 million. We lost $3.6 last year. I'd love to see how many schools can say they profited between the mix of those 2 years, and they're in a setting today to be profitable again in fiscal year 22 for us. Really good spot. The future's good. It's better in terms of where the ACC distribution will grow significantly next year with Comcast. We'll have a stadium naming rights partner, and I'm comfortable as a donor and a fan where we're going. What avails this athletic department in terms of, one, start to put a few bucks away. We need a bigger war chest than we have today. But I think it also avails you to be really competitive. I don't want to prognosticate, but we will have to deal with Scott's contract one way or another. If he wins, that's great. If not, you got to deal with it a different way. But the athletic department will be in position to be, to continue forward in a good state. I feel comfortable about that. The supporters, I know Tim Sullivan loves to write about donors and all that, and I think it's bullshit. We've done our part on donors. We've done our part. We came in with a values-based selling program that we're sitting here in the Galt House. They're one of them. I understand that individual donors are going to be upset, but from the corporate side of things, where you run a business like we run it, that's why we have UPS upping for $5 million, and Angels Envy for $4 million, and L&N Credit for $4.5 million, Planet Fitness for $3 million, Galt House $3.5 million, Kentucky Farm Bureau $2 million, Zappos $1.5 million, $1 million from Buffalo, Patterson, Bridgman, the names that you hear about, Isaac Roth, Sandra Frazier. All those happened in short order here, not over a period of 20 years, in very short order. That's why we bolstered our ability to continue to invest in these programs, invest in these coaches, and do the things we've done and mitigate where we were in COVID. We've done our part. We told them we would. If we weren't, I think they would have asked for their money back, or they would have asked for future commitments to come back. And I'm comfortable that Josh and the rest of the department is going to steward that in a way, Michael Dudas and others will steward it in a way that we originally discussed, and bring great value with them, and proud of being part of the Cardinal Bird. So they're still to come. We still have the stadium naming rights. We didn't get a chance to launch it during COVID for obvious reasons. It's in process, and next year we'll have a new name on that stadium. It'd be really valuable to our department to come for years. There was zero money coming from that agreement through 2041. So it's a new revenue source as we liquidate the liability that we have with John, and I'm really thankful that John's been very cooperative with us in terms of our ability to pay that off, and he gave us a year hiatus on that deal to take a break on the $2 million payment during COVID. So I'm appreciative of that. Didn't have to do that. As it relates to me and Florida State and what happened there, they certainly reached out. I was hesitant to have any conversations. I've not talked to any other schools that have ever reached out to me. I've said no every single time that Louisville's my home and this is a place I love. Things occur along the way that maybe get you to rethink some things. Florida State was very aggressive. They have a great product to sell. It's an amazing university, top 20 academically, top 20 athletically. Their leadership's in sync with a new board chair who I can relate to with a private equity background, a president that came from Harvard. I'm close with David Coburn, the outgoing athletic director, and Michael Alford, the incoming athletic director, who ran Seminole Boosters. He was at Central Michigan. We're both Adidas schools. Got to meet he and Laura, terrific people. Athletics it's clear where athletics' role is in the campus vision of Florida State. There's $200 million going into football alone, $100 million into an indoor facility, 82 of it, $82 million's raised, another 100 going into stadium enhancements, improvements, like into what we've done at Cardinal Stadium and with Populous, who I'm very close with, and would have planned that project out. And then certainly you can see Learfield, Learfield Cup standings, they're going to be probably in the top 10 this year after winning the soccer national championship just a week ago on the women's side, and very competitive in other sports. Big focus on women's sports like we have here, which is terrific. So I think as that went on, I certainly talked to him. You can see why there were some things that were interesting or flattering to consider, but I think as it really came down to it, I took the high road. I went to Neely, talked to her that night or afternoon on the 3rd. Per my contract, I wanted to take the high road, as I have in everything I've done here. Told her that there was a great deal of interest from Florida State, but I'm not moving forward any discussion, negotiation, anything. That my contract prohibits that, and I would need some type of clearance because they are an ACC school to have any conversation. And I had a copy of my contract that I delivered to her and pointed out the clauses of my contract that I thought might be in conflict, so that she was aware and could share that with Mary Nixon, our board chair, and anybody else who was willing to listen. She noted she called me the next day, and I've never heard from her since. On Sunday, I did receive a call after I sat with our management team to prepare for the bowl prep. So I went in the office, we got them ready, we got organized for the bowl on Sunday, and shortly thereafter received a call from Michael Wade Smith saying that a group had met that morning, was going to reconvene that evening, and said he'd have a draft of some type of release because I requested a legal document, not a word of mouth. and I would see a draft that night or in the morning. I got a call the next day around 4 o'clock or so, and was presented with a draft less than an hour before a Board of Trustees meeting, which would need a legal review in proper time, which I could not provide because my attorney was not prepared for a 4 o'clock, but early in the morning draft. And so that's why I think there was one of the reasons there were no action, but I later realized there was no action because there was a different agenda item going on related to Neely's resignation. I was unaware of that, didn't learn of that until I was going to bed Wednesday night. So on Wednesday, per my contract language, after the release, if you will, the contract amendment or addendum was approved by the board, I immediately sent a copy of my resignation to overnight, per the language, while overnighted, to Neely with a copy to Angela Curry, our general counsel. Did not hear from anyone at the university or the board during that window of time. And on Friday, I received overnight received a letter acknowledging receipt of my resignation and a voicemail from Mary Nixon later that day on Friday. So that's kind of the process. Wednesday night, I stepped back, as most know, from the Florida State opportunity. Did not go any further in the process. I think that quiet period that I felt was in my contract to sit back and not further discussions gave Lori and I a lot of time to reflect with our kids about where we were and the notion of going to Florida State, the notion of staying in athletics versus business. I had 2 standing offers to leave and go to the business world. They're pretty enticing. They're still out there. And I was just trying to rethink, like, where am I, write down the pros and cons, and just reflect on where I am and frankly, my love for Louisville. And told Florida State it wasn't for me. And but at the same time, based on where I was here, provided my resignation, decided to step back and felt like maybe in my role as a fan and a donor, I could have some positive impact on this university without receiving a salary. And I'll do that from the stands. I'll do that as a continued donor. But I think that's the hard part is I'm going to really miss the people and miss the opportunity to engage with the fans and provide a great product. And I love hearing from all the former student athletes that have called back, from Javion Hawkins all the way through Mason King, whoever it is, field hockey players, to know that's what I really enjoyed, was having an impact on them, and I have, and I think my family has. So it's a neat thing, and that's probably the rewarding part, and that's the part I love about this place, is it is a communal group. I know it. I was born and raised in it. I still love it, and will continue to. So when we play basketball tonight, I'll be there. Lori and I'll be there. And when we go to Columbus to play volleyball on Thursday, I'll be there too. Danny knows that why I wasn't there this past weekend, but why I'll be there Thursday. And related to her, before the postseason started, Amy Calabrese and I sat down. We had the details of her contract extension ready. Danny and I talked about it again this morning. I think, and Josh as well. I think from this point, it's for Amy and Josh to button that up, put a bow on it. But I think we're well prepared to have her here as a head coach for a long time, and hopefully that happens. So I'm excited about what Jeff's doing in the basketball and the other things. I guess from here, rather than ramble on, is